This is Bill Hurd with John Litzky, Wilkes Oral History Project on Thursday afternoon, March 29th, and we're now interviewing Kipp Roten. And for those who are writing this down, as they listen to it back, Kipp, your first name is spelled K-I-P-P, and last name is R-O-T-E-N.
Correct.
So, Kipp, hello.
Hello.
You were in the room when your brother-in-law, Larry Miller, talked, and you were along with him on that trip to Vietnam.
Yes.
But you were born, as I believe,
1965.
1965, so you'd known about the Vietnam conflict, but had not experienced it.
Oh, no.
As such.
I've heard the word Vietnam and Vietnam War all my life. And my mother's first cousin, James Taylor, was killed over there. And it was a everyday occurrence on the news in the 60s and 70s. I can remember back when I was 3. So Vietnam was always very interesting to me. Mm-hmm. And when I married into the Fall family, being in Geneva Fall, they had 2 daughters. Melissa is my wife and Mary is Larry's wife. They're 18 years apart. So I married into a family with a piece of history because he lived it. And I've just, I'm a history buff, and I've got a lot of books on Vietnam, and I watch all the documentaries and everything. So when Larry and I had an opportunity to go on a mission trip over there, we just jumped right on.
Now you are a minister.
Yes, I am a ordained Baptist minister. I attend Baptist Home Baptist Church in Mulberry in Wilkes County. And this is our church's second missionary trip to Cambodia and Vietnam. And we have a missionary there in Vietnam, in Saigon, full-time. His name is Paul Edmiston.
Very good. How is the reception of Christianity in Cambodia and Vietnam?
In Cambodia, surprisingly, the people were very receptive, extremely hungry for a truth that they could grasp. Mm-hmm. Buddhism is prevalent. It's just at every house was the burning of incense and the little happy Buddhas, they would call them, or but the people were very gracious, and many received the good news openly. A great number of the people are searching. Cambodia is about the size of our state of Georgia, with a population, some say from 13 to 15 million, but it's very difficult to count because a great number of the people living out in the villages will be born, live, and die within a square mile. It's an interesting country. There's a mixture of 21st century, 19th century, and 18th century, all sort of working together. Their people is their greatest resource. I was very impressed with their people.
And then Vietnam.
Vietnam. I've had a place in my heart for Vietnam all my life. My brother-in-law was drafted and sent there in January of '67. 40 years to the week, January of 2007, we got to return there. We traveled the same mountain road from Da Nang to Phu Bai that he traveled 40 years prior. It was awesome. It really was. Every moment of the trip was awesome. We flew there, and we arrived at 8:30 one morning, and our interpreter and guide, we told him we was hungry, and he took us to a little restaurant there in Da Nang called Bread of Life. I was shocked. And I began talking to the waitress there, and she began witnessing Jesus Christ to me. And I was going, this is really outlawed here in Vietnam. And I was really impressed with this young lady. So she introduced us to the lady who owns Bread of Life, her and her husband. Her husband was in the army at Vietnam and began this mission. because God laid on his heart to go back and to finish what was started. And the first day was perfect, and it just got better from then on. It was perfect. But traveling the road from Da Nang to Phu Bai across the mountain, it just brought closure to my brother-in-law. People were very receptive, a little more westernized, but very gracious. And we visited Phu Bai, the Air Force base there, and some of the old bunkers and stuff. But most of this generation in Vietnam has very little knowledge of the war. They call it the American War instead of the Vietnam War.
Compare that to what the same generation here, the American generation, knows about the war. Because now you're back here and you have all of these memories, these positive feelings, and you've obviously shared them.
Right.
In many cases. What do you see of the comparison between the two places and the same generation in both lands?
Ironically, I guess it's depending on the location. It's just like our Civil War. When you go up north, it's not even taught in schools, but down here it's a big thing.
Absolutely.
In the South. My generation, of course, was extremely interested. A lot of family members was there, but the generation, it was something that happened. It was something that the media portrayed as negative from day one. Anytime a Christian country tries to turn the light on in a dark land, it seems like the media just jumps on that bandwagon, just like they're doing now with Iraq. War is war. It's terrible. But God can use it for his good. He doesn't promote it. But his presence is there, and that's very obvious by the family that moved back to Vietnam that started the Bread of Life. Yeah. It's
inspiration.
It is indeed an inspiration. But our generation will have this conversation about Iraq and Afghanistan 40 years from today. And I hope the outcome is more positive.
Well, 40 years from today, if we can go back to Iraq, to Afghanistan, and find a fairly stable, somewhat democratic Christian community,
right,
then perhaps all of it's been worth something.
Before the invasion of Afghanistan, there was less than 30 known Christians. Today, there's over 10,000. It's been a success.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Very good. Along with many other things, Kipp, that we understand you do, you cut wood.
Well, I am the
Probably
fourth.
is an understatement.
I am the fourth generation timber cutter, logger, which I have give that up for the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
But when sawdust runs through your veins one time, you just can't seem to get it out. But,
Well, there's a lot of timber in Wilkes County still. A lot of it's on steep hillsides.
been there and done that.
When timbering is done and left in a certain way, next time the rains come, erosion begins. Are there ways to prevent this?
Absolutely.
Can you talk to us a little bit?
I sure can. I have cut a lot of 70-degree slopes, even more steep than that.
Mm-hmm.
And you start from the bottom up. I am a firm believer and proof positive in clear cutting. Cut down everything. It's just like harvesting potatoes. When you dig your potatoes, you dig them all. When you cut timber, you cut it all, and the sun will hit the land evenly and grow an even crop. And most of the time when you select cut, you leave the less desirable wood, and it's left for the next generation to deal with. But with the best management practices that the North Carolina Forest Service promotes, the water bars, the grass seeding, the stream side management zones, it's working extremely well.
Loggers continue to make money putting this extra time, effort, and resource.
Well, you make more because when you do an excellent job on John Doe's property and see the quality of work, his neighbor's going to say, yeah, I like that. Instead of, 50, 60 years ago when the logging roads was straight down and the big erosion took place, you learn from your mistakes, and we hope. And it's working. It really is.
How about regrowth of timber? Timber is supposed to be a renewable resource. Does clear cutting provide advantages with better second crop?
It provides a tremendous advantage because of the even sunlight. A select cut, the hardwood trees, they just bush out and shade the ground. Less timber grows in a select cut. A clear cut forest looks bad during the process. With your best management practices and some reseeding and let nature take its course, there's a lot of seed in the ground. God is taking care of that. It's got to have sunlight, water, and rain and sunlight. Timber grows. But Wilkes County, at one time, 20 years ago, the timber was growing faster than you could cut it, but now it's not the case. It's Hugo sort of took the Hurricane Hugo back in '89, took care of that for us. It blew down a 14-year supply of our timber, and that was interesting to go through that hurricane mess. But
I can point out some of the leftovers of Hugo today.
Today.
Out on the lake where I live.
Right. Just
show you exactly.
Big snags.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
Yeah. Still there.
Still there.
Okay.